All right, what is good, y'all? We are back in. We got episode 28 of Catch and Counter. We've been off last week. I got my guy Nibs as always. So, shout out to the boxing shop, fellow ITR show on our ITR platform. Ray and Felix, they do a good job on there, but they were talking some mess about us. So, as Roy Jones said, y'all must have forgot. Me and Nibs, we've been at the doctor's a little bit, treated for some back pain, some back spasms and stuff, because, they've had a few good weeks, but let's not forget who was carrying the ITR platform for months on end, from about October to January when they were on their little hiatus. So, they're feeling good. They're feeling good doing their thing now, but like Roy Jones said, y'all must have forgot. So, Mr. I Told You So Nibs, I am Jack. So, Nibs, how we feeling episode 28? The boys had some words for you also, so how we feeling being able to come correct and set it straight?
I mean, look, you know what I'm saying? Jealousy is not a good color on them. They need to switch it up. Green ain't their color. It is what it is. But when you the best, what hate comes with it, baby. You know what I mean? So we're used to this. It's nothing new. And you know what? We let them have their little run. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's cool when you gotta add people to your show just to get more stuff. You got to do interviews. You got to pay some. I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's. But we got some stuff to talk about, bro. We postponed our show so we could do a reaction show to. I mean, basically the fight. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it a buck. Undisputed, bro. The top two heavyweights, the best versus the best, and they gave us everything they had yesterday, and it was one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen. I mean, Tyson Fury, bro, love him or hate him, he's given us some of the best heavyweight fights. Period. I mean, in the last 10, 20 years, he's been the most consistent when it comes to giving us classic joints at the heavyweight division. So, hats off to both him and Usyk. I love the respect they show to each other immediately after the fight, embracing, um, you know, and congratulations to Alexander Usyk for becoming the first unified heavyweight champ since what Lennox Lewis. We talking 25 plus
Mm-hmm.
years, man. So, hats off to him, and we're gonna get into that today.
That's a fact. Yeah, first time in my lifetime that we've crowned an undisputed heavyweight champion. I think Lennox Lewis was crowned in '99. I was born in 2000, so the first one. Not that I would have been able to see it even if it was 2000, 2001 anyways, but first time in my lifetime we now have an undisputed heavyweight champion. We got Jesus in the building too, saying Usyk number one pound for pound for now, and yeah, I can't even argue that right now. Whether you want to have him number one, Crawford number one, even throw Inoue in the mix too. For those three, it's kind of whoever you want to put there, but with what Usyk did against the guy in Fury, 40 pounds heavier than him, I ain't mad at anyone saying that they got him number one pound for pound. We got Felix in the building too. So all jokes aside, I know we have some friendly competition, but Felix has been doing a lot for our platform too. He's been doing some good stuff in the Arizona area, and he's got the boxer shop on Monday. So as always, we appreciate you tuning in. So maybe you're gonna take it a little more easy on me and my guy Nibs tomorrow night, but all jokes aside, it's good to have you, Felix, as
Nah,
always.
nah. I'm not letting it
all
go,
right,
man.
all
I'm not
right.
letting it go. Hey, they tore my ass up the other night, on their show. You know what I'm saying? Giving me all that hell. Look, I'm gonna tell people. Yes, Serrano and Taylor won. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen, male or females. The best female fight of all time. So if it's the best female fight of all time, and I say it's one of the best fights I've ever seen, why are you giving me shit? Shut the hell up. That's why they on Monday. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna try to let it go one of these days.
Yeah, like I said, honestly, I didn't even peep that part, but they're lucky, like I said too, they're lucky Dakota wasn't on there because he would have had your back on that one, I'm sure too. But back to what everyone wants to hear about, like I said, heavyweight championship of the world. One thing that I was kind of worried about coming into this fight is I thought that we might see a dull fight, but bro, did we see anything but a dull fight in there? We saw the ebbs and flows, the momentum shifts to the highest level, and this fight was billed kind of more as like IQ versus IQ, with the bigger guy being Fury, but Usyk using the angles. But it was IQ versus IQ, but it almost more came down to dog versus dog in the end too, where they would say skills pay the bills, and that's absolutely true. But it becomes a point in every kind of fight where you got to kind of bite down and sit down on something a little bit too. And I think we saw that in this fight. We saw that Fury in the middle rounds. The first few rounds, they were kind of going back and forth. Usyk kind of pressuring Fury, but Fury kind of controlling from the outside too. The middle rounds, Fury really started to take over, working to the body, catching Usyk a few times with that uppercut. But man, Usyk just the tempo that he has, just he's a stone cold killer, and he sets a certain pace that these other heavyweights they really can't deal with. And Fury seen he caught him in round nine, and then after that he does what he did, and he closed the show and got the job done.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't argue with it, bro. Like at the end of the day, you looking at the two best heavyweights in our division, right? Like hands down. You look at everybody else that's in the heavyweight division. I mean, Anthony Joshua's made a nice little comeback for himself. I like the way he's acted. You know what I'm saying? Joseph Parker got himself right back into the mix after taking a real, almost devastating loss to Joe Joyce. He's bounced back with two great wins on his resume, right? We were talking about writing that dude off. You know what I mean? And now he's put himself right back into the picture. Maybe he can get a title shot, in the near future, right? So, but when you look at Fury and Usyk, they're head and shoulders above everybody else, and they put on a hell of a show, bro. Like you said, I think for me, I had it 7-5 Fury, so 114, 113 if you include the knockdown. But I'm not arguing with anybody who said Usyk won that fight. I'm not arguing. I'm not mad at the decision, right? It's a split decision. I can definitely see it being 114, 113 either way. There are some really close rounds in there. I think for me, I think Fury would have won this going away if he would have stuck with the body work and done less of the showboat and bullshit, right? Because let's face it, you do the showboat and bullshit, that's what got him caught. He was trying to be too cute, and you can't be cute in the heavyweight division, bro. But this is what Fury does, right? He was too cute against Ngannou, got knocked down. Luckily, that was early on in the fight. He was able to, assert himself and kind of dance around to the end of the fight. He didn't take that serious enough. He got cute against Deontay Wilder in their first fight, and I don't know how, but gets back up. After that two-piece and biscuit he caught in the 11th round, and then, but when you see him on his stick, you see him, you know, game ready, laser focused like he was in the second two fights with Wilder. He's lights out, bro. Like you just there's really nothing you can do with him, um, unless you've got that one punch knockout power like Wilder has, and even then, he won those fights. So I just look at it like, I think Fury, I'm pretty sure in the rematch is going to be way more focused, maybe doing less of the showboating and try to get Usyk out of there. But hats off to Usyk, bro. Like, I gotta, I gotta give this dude all the credit in the world. I know there are people out there who don't like his style, don't think that he's, the best and at all this stuff. But look at the dude's resume, bro. What else does he have to prove? He's what 22 fights into his career, and he's unified champion at cruiserweight, unified champion at heavyweight, and he did it the old-fashioned way. He beat all the dudes that had the belts, right? He beat the man to beat a man in two different weight classes. He's cleaned it out, bro. I mean, he thoroughly beat Anthony Joshua. He, like it or not, he just beat Tyson Fury. If they run it back and he knocks Fury out or whitewashes him or something like that, there's really nothing you can say. And you got to put this dude on your Mount Rushmore of heavyweight champions because he is a unified champion and he earned it. He wasn't given it. He didn't fight a guy with all the belts who. It's not like he fought Buster Douglas, who beat Mike Tyson, got all the belts, and then, he beat that guy, right? He didn't pull a Devin Haney. I'm not trying to hate on Devin Haney. You fight Cambosis, low hanging fruit, get all the belts, you undisputed. This isn't what that. This isn't that. This dude earned those belts the old fashioned way. You got to put respect on that man's name, bro. Congratulations to Usyk and being the first unified champ in the last 25 years. I still don't have him number one pound for pound on my list. I have him number three, just because Inouye and Crawford have done it at multiple weights, and I get it. He's done it at cruiserweight and heavyweight, but what Crawford's done it at what three or four, Inouye's on his third or fourth. So they just have more weight classes in it than he does. And other than that, bro, I mean, you couldn't really argue with any of the fights on that card. We had a couple knockouts on the undercard. was a good card all around. And I know people don't like it, but hats off to the Sheik, bro. He knows how to put on some shit. So I'm with it, man. And I'm excited about the rematch. If they can get that rematch in before the end of the year, man. If they do it in Saudi, obviously I can't get down there. But if they bring that shit to the states, I'm gonna try to figure out how to get into that fight, bro.
Yeah, my guess is that that Saudi bag is going to keep it in Saudi, but hey, as long as we get the rematch, that's something that I'm interested in because I think that there's still storylines for both guys to look at for the rematch too, as we see right here saying the rematch need to happen. But going up to adjust to a Felix's comments too, saying love the friendly competition, but they're not backing down. So one thing I will say is just our little back and forth kind of reminds me of the Fury Usyk fight a little bit. So we started off strong, and then the middle rounds it seems like the shop's kind of taking over a little bit, but just wait. Pretty soon we're gonna have you guys up on the ropes like Usyk did Fury in round nine, and we'll see if y'all are able to hold it down and get it together. But he
I got to
says
shout
even
out
here.
real quick to my twin brother Brad in the comments, man. We see you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching.
Yes, yes, sir. Appreciate you tuning in for sure. And then Felix saying here too, just that sad the belts are going to be tied up. But one thing about that is the rematch. I don't think the rematch will be for Undisputed. I think at least the IBF belt, and there might be another belt or two that gets splintered also. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that all plays out. As you said, shout out to you, Bradley. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate all y'all tuning in for sure. And as Felix says, competition is on. But one thing about Usyk, the thing that I think impresses me the most with him, the thing I like about his game the most, it's a very simple thing that a lot of people might not notice when you watch his fight, but it's just his feint game. He sits in the southpaw stance, and the level change feints that he does, up and down, constant up and down, is also why I think he was able to mentally kind of wear down Fury a bit, even in those mid rounds. Even as Fury's having success, like you're saying, he's having to fight for all that too. He was able to land those left hands to the body early on, even if he's not landing a ton of them. Those left hands to the body made Fury think a bit, and then it set up the shots up top too, those overhand lefts. And I was watching the fight up at my boxing gym, South Shore Boxing in Whitman, with a few of my coaches and a few of the other guys up there. And one of my trainers, Josh Phippen, one thing he had mentioned was just that Fury's jab was looking pretty good in the early rounds, but he was saying that Usyk, if Usyk's able to follow those punches back, he was going to be able to have success because, as Jesus mentioned too, Fury threw that flick jab pretty well, but then he'd leave his hands down. He never kind of would bring his hands back. So you saw Usyk start to follow those punches back. Even if he'd get hit with the jab, he'd follow it back and he'd land a big left hand over the top, which ended up kind of turning the fight. Honestly, not even turning the tide of the fight, being the difference in that fight, because that knockdown in the ninth round was the difference. But I want to give Usyk a shout out too because we talk about the clutch gene in basketball and football and all these other sports, but in the sport of boxing, that dude has the ultimate clutch gene too, and we've seen it now on against three different guys at the highest level. We've seen him fight Maris Briedis at cruiserweight when he needed to win the 12th round to win the fight. He does exactly that. If he doesn't win the 12th round, he don't win that fight, and that fight's a draw. We seen him against Anthony Joshua in both fights. The first fight, he was ahead, but he still swept the last 4 rounds to leave no doubt. Then even in the second fight against Joshua, when I thought Joshua was hurting him to the body in round 9, I thought AJ might have taken the lead in the fight. What does Usyk do? He sweeps 10, 11, and 12 to win the fight by a split decision. And then same thing here. Even if I gave Fury the 12th round, I ended up giving Usyk's rounds, was it 9, 10, and 11? And after rewatching the fight, originally I had the same scorecard you did. I had it 114, 113 for Fury. After rewatching the fight, I did slide it Usyk's way, either 114, 113, or 115, 112. So I think at the end of the day, just that the dude's clutch. I mean, there's something to be said for he's got all the skills that you need. He's got the footwork, he's got the hand speed, he's got the boxing IQ. When you're able to just when you're in deep shit like that and you time after time find a way to win. I mean, I don't think anybody, even the biggest Usyk fans, thought in that seventh round that he was going to win that fight. Fury started time because Fury was using that flip jab, and then anytime Usyk would follow him back, he would just shoot that right uppercut. You saw he hurt him with that, and he started going to the body. I thought it was about to be the beginning of the end for Usyk, but as Usyk's always done, he bit down on his mouthpiece and he said, "I ain't going out like this." He said, "This is a big dude, and he's bringing it to me, but my only choice is now to bring it back to him." And man, he definitely brought it back to him and hurt him. Maybe worse than we've ever seen Fury hurt. Because we've seen Fury, Wilder punches harder than Usyk. So we've seen Fury, as soon as Wilder hit him, he would just drop right away. But I think in this fight, because Usyk doesn't have the same one punch power, he was able to pepper Fury multiple times. And I mean, Bro, that fight could have been stopped when he was on the ropes. It ended up being the right call, I think, because he ended up going all 12 rounds. But if this is an undercard fight or whatever, that shit's a wrap, and they're waving it off right there. But they did call the knockdown. But Usyk's just clutch at the end of the day, and even Fury's got to get a lot of respect because he had no idea where he was in that ninth round. So to come back and survive 10 and 11 and even win round 12, man, my hat goes off to him also.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to the referee for recognizing, the situation, right? This is the fight. This is the undisputed heavyweight fight of the world, right? Give the man a chance. You know what I'm saying? The ropes held him up, so let's give him a standing eight. If Fury would have come off those ropes and have been like wobbling all over the place, I think the ref would have stopped it. But he got off the ropes. He nodded. He was ready to go. He said he acknowledged he was ready to fight, and he was actively able to defend himself after you know you know of course he got the bail, but then in that next round he was actively able to defend himself. It wasn't like he was super punch drunk, which Fury has this really uncanny ability to be able to do, right? I've never been able to see somebody literally, like, I thought he was out cold in the 11th round against Wilder. I think most of us did. He gets up, and then most people, even for me, I thought he won the rest of the round. I was like, shit, how do you do that? His ability to get hurt and then bounce back is like no other, bro. I mean, I haven't seen it since what, maybe Muhammad Ali, back in the day. Like, it's that good of an ability to be able to bounce back. And at the heavyweight division, I mean, that's the thing they make legends about. You know what I'm saying? So, and to your point, I'll say this, yeah, man. You got to give it to Usyk because he doesn't stop, bro. He doesn't. There's no quit in that dude. There's no, oh, I'm not gonna win. The whole time, while you see Fury in that ninth round, kind of fucking around, doing all, you see Usyk. He's using his brain. He's already, oh, okay, let me take advantage of this, and he banked some stuff early. Like, I kind of feel like the same way I felt that Fury should have stuck to that jab. I mean, you should have saw me. I was yelling at the screen, stick to the jab, keep hitting him with it, because when Fury was pumping that jab, wasn't shit you Usyk could do. I kept saying, keep going to the body. He hates them body punches. But if you see the way Usyk was setting his shit up, he went to the body a little earlier. You know what I'm saying? But he was able to land that straight left hand over and over and over. Then you see him catch him with it a couple of times in the middle rounds. Even though I thought he might have lost the round, every time he hit Fury with it, you can see Fury acknowledging it. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers give you that head nod like, okay, or they shake it off. That means that shit hurt. So, Usyk was banking stuff early, bro, and then he just caught, Tyson Fury slipping. I think, to be honest with you, in round nine. But again, that's to his, you know, credit, not to, me saying, oh, well, Fury lost this fight and, as opposed to Usyk won it. No, Usyk won it because he pays attention to everything, even the little things throughout the whole fight. He doesn't lose focus. He doesn't, take rounds off. He's in there to do business and do work. And that's what true champions do, bro. And again, you go in there against, most people had him ranked as the number one heavyweight. Fury was before the fight. You go in there against the number one guy, even though he had more belts than Fury did, and and he won, bro. And nobody's really going to be able to argue it with you. So, again, it just makes me more excited for the rematch because, hey, if the first fight was this good, the second fight's got to be even better.
Yeah, no, it's a fact. I can't wait for it. And one thing that kind of surprised me in this fight was or even before I even say that, I guess I want to give Usyk a lot of credit because coming into the fight, I had thought that for Usyk to win, he was going to need a little bit of help from Fury. And obviously not that he was going to help him out in the fight, but I thought that, okay, maybe Fury was going to not be in the best shape or kind of unravel in there, and Usyk was going to take advantage of that. But I think what we saw, especially from what we've seen in those first few rounds, is that that was like an A version of Tyson Fury in there that Oleksandr Usyk beat. He didn't beat a Fury that was undisciplined, that lacked focus, anything like that. He went in there against the best possible version of him, so he gets all the respect for that one. I think a lot of people looked at it saying, okay, Usyk's consistent and Fury's not consistent, so I'm going to pick the guy that's consistent. When in reality, that is true, and maybe Fury having to flip that switch on and off caught up to him eventually. But either way, he looked good in there Saturday night, and he didn't. Usyk or Fury didn't really lose that fight. It was more like you said, Usyk taking the fight from him and being able to win the fight. But one tactic thing I want to ask you about because it surprised me, and my prediction for the fight was I thought Fury would have won kind of a boring fight. So I thought we were going to see a lot more Fury clinching and kind of leaning on him, the way we saw him lean on Wilder to take his legs out, and he'd kind of muck the fight up. Are you surprised that we didn't see more of that, or you just did you kind of expect that from Fury, being that he is still the taller and longer guy, so he did use the length? When I'm surprised he didn't kind of even use some of the inside work more, work the body and kind of lean and try to take the legs out of Usyk, knowing he's got a great gas tank too.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, Jack. And to be honest with you, I think we did see him do it some. We saw him do a little bit. You can see he actively tried to do it a couple of times. But yeah, I don't think he did it enough. I mean, that you have a huge when you have that big of an advantage as far as size and weight over your opponent. I think he was what over 35 pounds heavier, a little bit somewhere around there. You muted my guy.
Just gonna say, I think it was 39, 40 pounds.
Yeah, yeah, you're talking about, over 35, 40 pounds heavier than your opponent. I mean, he's what 6'9". I think Usyk's what 6'2", 6'3", some shit like that. So when you're that much bigger than your opponent, yeah, you need to lean on him. You need to, you know, make the smaller guy feel like the smaller guy. You know what I'm saying? So I think I would have liked to have seen more of it, but I wasn't too mad at the amount because I felt like again when he was sticking that jab and catching Usyk with those body shots, bro, he was doing what he needed to do to slow Usyk down. You know what I'm saying? You saw whenever he landed solid on with those body shots, Usyk was nowhere near trying to come in and mix it up. You know what I'm saying? Usyk had to pause. So for me, I was okay with it because he was fighting at range. So, but whenever Usyk would come in, I did expect him to lean on him more. I think he could have definitely utilized that a little bit more than he did. Um, but I like the game plan early on. I like what he was doing early on. I gave him a lot of those rounds because of his game plan. So I wasn't mad at what I saw. But yeah, I mean, you that much bigger than your opponent, bro. You got to put it on him.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, some of that credit goes to Usyk too. When you're landing those punches as sharp as you are, it's a lot harder to. Yeah, Usyk's a smaller guy, but he's a sharp puncher, kind of like Lomachenko at lightweight, where they might not clean you out with one shot, but they're sharp and they're gonna get your respect. So Fury wasn't able to just walk through those shots and grab him and lean on him either, because to do that, you still got to close that distance. So I think that he did fight. He's kind of what makes him such an interesting guy because we saw he could lean on the inside, he can kind of jab from the outside. So he did kind of a bit of those, but it gives Usyk that much more credit to be able to work through and beat a guy like that. So looking forward now, do you give? I mean, obviously, I think that you had it a really close fight. So, do you think there's a chance that this fight could end up a trilogy? Could we see Fury winning a rematch, or kind of what are your thoughts on where this, or is it just are we one and done, or where does Fury and Usyk's names kind of come out? Because we've seen these famous trilogies in boxing with Frazier and Ali and all those guys, and even Wilder and Fury as of recent. Could this be the next trilogy in line, or do you think, or which guy do you think, I guess the way to phrase it is, which guy do you think has a better chance to make adjustments and be a better, more improved version of themselves in the rematch?
It's a good question, bro. And yeah, I mean, as soon as I watched the fight and it was over, I said this is going to be a trilogy because I think Tyson Fury is going to come back. You can already see it right when they announced who Usyk as the winner. You saw it in Tyson Fury's face. He's like, oh, he's like, are you kidding me? And the way he's talking, he's already, he's saying, hey, I'll see you in October. You know what I mean? And as close as this fight was, we've seen what Tyson Fury does in rematches, right? He's lights out that second fight. You know what I mean? So um, Usyk, he does well for himself, but you saw in the rematch with Anthony Joshua, actually, Anthony Joshua got better. I kind of felt like Usyk was still kind of the same guy, which is still enough to beat him, to get the dub. But if you come in and you're the same guy, I think Tyson Fury's got that ability though. He turns it on in that second fight, especially now that he's actually taking his first official loss. Yeah, bro, I think he's going to be lights out. I think Tyson Fury wins the second fight going away, and then we have a trilogy fight, which they'll be able to milk this as for as long as they want to, bro. Unless somebody gets knocked out cold, like or hurt really bad in the third fight, this is gonna go on for a little while.
Hey, if that's what we got in the script, then the script's gonna hit pretty good for boxing. So I'm not against that either. And it's interesting because I can look at those things too and say, okay, Fury's got some things he can go back to the drawing board. Also, like you said, he can kind of use the length more times, be more consistent with bringing those hands back, and also look to maybe lean on Usyk a bit more. One thing people saw when he came in at 262 is saying, okay, you lost a lot of weight, but is that going to help you against a guy like Usyk, where Usyk's already the quicker guy? You're not going to be quicker than Usyk per se, so is he better off being a little heavier? Maybe we see him do what he did in the second Wilder fight and come in a little heavier. Not too heavy, because Usyk's got the great gas tank. You got to worry about gassing out, but maybe he comes in a little heavier, trying to use his physicality and stuff. But also, the one caveat to that could be is just like Fury kind of figured Wilder out in the last round of that first fight. You could say, did Usyk figure out Fury late in that fight, and is he now just going to be able to cut the distance from the first round to the second fight going on, and is Fury going to have an answer to that? So that's what makes the rematch so intriguing. Is you can, for both guys, say, okay, Fury can do this, this, and this, and he can win the fight. You can also say, hey, if Usyk figured Fury out late in that fight, and he starts going, if it's not round two of the second fight, if it's round 13 of the first fight, I think Usyk's got a good chance to win the rematch too. So that's what intrigues it, and that's what it's going to intrigue everybody. And I think the first fight was big. The second fight's going to be even bigger because you can kind of look at both guys and make cases why they can win the rematch.
That's why we watch, right? That's why we love this sport, bro. I mean, the people. Let's take the first fight for what it was. Let's not gloss over the first fight yet. You know what I'm saying? People are going to be arguing this fight for years to come, no matter what happens, second, third, whether we get a second or third fight or not. People are going to be talking about this fight for a long ass time, bro. You think about it. We just had one of the best heavyweight fights we've ever seen. I mean, since the third fight with Wilder, this is the best heavyweight fight I've watched. I don't know about you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, it didn't have all the knockdowns and drama that Wilder and Fury 3 had, but it had great action, right? And it did have the drama in that ninth round. I think that drama in that ninth round, bro, to me, it proves to you two things. One, you better take Usyk motherfucking serious. And I'm not just talking about right now, but I'm talking all time, bro. You can put that dude on all time list. And I know there are a lot of people who don't like the smaller guys. There are a lot of guys who didn't like Evander when he was coming up, or even David Hay. And I'm not trying to put David Hay on anybody else's, but people hate on the smaller guys coming up into the heavyweight division. But you got to give it to a dude who was laser focused. I thought he was losing that fight, and then you're right. He could have stopped it, and had this not been for all the marbles, he probably would have got a TKO win. So you have to respect that, but then you also have to, again, like you said, you have to respect the mettle of a Tyson Fury, right? Because he was hurt bad, and for him to be able to come back the way that he did, it proves that we had the two best guys, right? And I think the second, if we get a second or third fight, it's going to prove again these are the best guys that we have in this division. I don't need to see them fight anybody else right now. I'm cool with the belts being tied up until we get this resolved, right? Because how close that first fight was, I need to see it again. I need to see it again. Not that I want to. I need to see that a second time. I think the world and the whole sport of boxing needs to see that shit again. And I don't think this is not going to be one of those duds. This is going to be, look, bro, sign me up, bro. Sign me up.
No, that's a fact. And Jesus was a good shout too, saying the first fight between Ruiz and Joshua was a good action fight. That was, especially because it seemed like AJ was getting easy work. You get caught in the tempo, all of a sudden things change. And Bean saying he's never seen a bad Fury fight when he fights a good opponent. The one caveat I say is outside of the Klitschko fight early on, but I think since that point, as you said, when he's Wilder or Usyk, he's been in great fights. And even as you said, to compare this fight to the Wilder Fury 3 fight is that fight had more knockdowns in it, but I think this fight was more consistently intriguing to me. Where that fight, Wilder had the great fourth round, but then after that, before he got knocked out, there were a lot of rounds of Fury kind of just leaning on him and wearing him down. It seemed like you saw Wilder kind of die a slow death a little bit in that fight, which as a big Deontay Wilder guy, the dude who got me into the sport, it was kind of tough to watch because the writing was on the wall for a little bit from like around round six on. Whereas in this fight, it seemed okay. They both kind of do good things in the first few rounds. Fury rounds five through or four through seven completely takes over. Like you said, it seems like he's well on his way to winning. And then Usyk takes over, basically knocks Fury out, almost knocks him out, comes back and then wins the fight in the fashion he did. So I think for this one, just the ebbs and flows of this fight, just the consistent intrigue would probably be the difference for me in this one, just versus that one had the more knockdowns and the more chaos, I guess, but it was kind of in a short span in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, bro. There's really not a there's not a boring part of this fight. There was never a part of this fight where I was like, okay, can they get their shit on? Can somebody throw a punch? You know what I mean? Like, and we've had that, in some heavyweight fights recently, right? Or, one guy looks like he's completely overmatched. There were stretches of the fight where you thought Tyson Fury was on his shit. He was like, oh wait, he is on another level. But then Usyk comes back and proves why he's, that guy. So again, there was never a point where you thought somebody was overmatched. You never felt like there was a lull in the fight. This is great heavyweight shit, bro. Like, give it to me every time, bro. This is pause. But I'll take this fight every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
No, for sure. And then one thing that I think when a lot of people look at boxing or other sports, they look at the guy who's talking, who's acting kind of more as the confident guy. So even early on in this fight, a lot of people looked at it as, yeah, Fury's the confident guy because you said he was kind of showboating and he was kind of doing his thing. But to me, it looked a little bit more as he was kind of masking some insecurities a little bit. Not that he was insecure, he was still confident in the moment, but also being like, oh shit, okay, I might have dodged a few of those shots, but Usyk's kind of coming with some heat, and he's kind of on me a little earlier than I thought he would be in this fight. So I think that's something you see when guys. The same thing they always say when a guy gets hit with a good shot and he kind of smiles it off. They always say, "Hey, if he wasn't hurt by that shot, he wouldn't have been smiling." So I think that's something that you always see a guy like Usyk. Yeah, he might not do all that talking, so Fury might seem more confident in the build-up and all those things. But I think you saw it anytime they locked eyes, and I'm never someone who looks too much into that, but Usyk just looked ready from the first press conference they had months ago to when they met in the ring after the Ngannou fight. I mean, that dude has just always looked ready, and it takes a
That
lot
stare
for.
down, bro. That
Hmm.
stare down was
Yeah,
vicious.
and a lot of guys who do a lot of talking too. And I love a lot of talking. I love the confident guys too. But a lot of guys who do a lot of talking. When it came to that sixth round for Usyk, when he was getting hit with those body shots, and then that was the first time I've really seen Usyk rocked with a headshot too. When that uppercut got him, a lot of dudes would have folded under that pressure too. So just the confidence of Usyk to, like I said, just find a way to win. I mean, there's something to be said for just a guy who's got all the skills in the world, but when shit hits the fan, just finding a way to win. And I think that puts him in, like you said, as a legitimate certified all-time great for sure.
I mean, when you think about it, bro, there were times in this fight where both dudes, you wouldn't have been, nobody would have given them shit for taking a knee or going down or, letting the fight get waved off, right? Like in that ninth round, nobody would have said shit to Fury or given him any kind of shit for the fight being waved off. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, in that seventh round, if Usyk would have decided to take a knee, nobody would have said shit about that, bro. Because there were definitely times in this fight where both guys looked like they were in some trouble. They weathered the storms, bro, and that's what champions do. They both did. They both came back. And then just how they reacted to like you said, they're going through all this turbulence, and they said, all right, let me right the plane. Let me get this shit back level, and come back, and they did it. And it's again, it's just a testament to the fact that this was high level boxing, bro. This was high level boxing at its best. You can't beat it. You can't. Think about it. There's a lot of dudes at the heavyweight division would have taken that ninth round and taken a knee, or would have tapped out, or somebody's corner would have thrown in a towel or something like that, right? Hey, bro, run it back. And to be honest with you, I don't see. anybody else in the heavyweight division giving either one of these dudes the work like they just gave each other. You feel me? Like I don't think there's anybody in the heavyweight division that can give Usyk the troubles that Fury was giving him, and I don't think there's pretty much anybody in the heavyweight division outside of Usyk who can even come close to beating Deontay or Tyson Fury, unless they've got Deontay Wilder power and a chin that's better than Fury's. So unless you find that guy,
And you might have to go to that undisputed new video game and create a character to kind of find someone like that, as you're saying. But one guy who I want to give a shout out to, and he is like I said, he's clearly the third best guy right now. One and two are clear, but people need to put some more respect on Anthony Joshua's name because I think we found out in this fight is a lot of people looked at it and said, okay, yeah, he lost to Usyk, but Usyk's going to lose to Fury too. Fury's going to wipe Usyk this and that. And it showed that, yeah, AJ is a half step below those dudes, but he's a lot closer to those guys than a lot of people think too because the same Fury that just lost to Usyk by a split decision, Joshua lost to him in a split decision in the second fight. So, yeah, styles make fights that don't always work out that way, but I think even Joshua showed for all the flaws he has we're not calling Usyk an all-time great and all these things, and he was able to hang with them for 24 rounds and come up short both times, but show that he belongs in there with the elite of the heavyweight division too. And I agree with you that he's on a half step down from those two guys that are clearly one and two. But I think he came out of this weekend a big winner, also just showing that he needs some respect on his name. Also, I've always liked my guy AJ.
and people need to also understand. Tyson Fury said this before their fight. Before they stepped into the ring, he likes fighting taller guys. He doesn't like the short. If you look at his career, the guys who have given him the most trouble have been got the smaller guys. I don't know if you remember a guy named Steve Cunningham. You know, he came in there and he had Tyson Fury in some serious trouble early on in his career, and then Tyson Fury knocked him out later on. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, as long as that fight was lasting, Steve Cunningham was giving him some business that he wasn't expecting. Tyson Fury does not like fighting the smaller guys. He wants the Wilders, he wants the Joshuas, he wants the Joe Joyces, he wants somebody his height. He does better with those guys, right? He knows how to act to that. It's just like the guys when Mike Tyson was coming up. People hated fighting Mike Tyson because he was short, compact, faster, and that body work was vicious, right? He hit you with that left to the body, and then but you done dropped your hands, and by the time you realize the mistake you done made, somebody's reminding you what your name is. So Usyk is not necessarily that kind of fighter because he doesn't have Mike Tyson power. He doesn't have Anthony Joshua power, Deontay Wilder power, but he's got that power that in that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds, you're going to be feeling him. You know what I'm saying? And he's going to be there in your chest. He's not going away. He's going to be right there, no matter what you've been doing to him. He's going to be right in your face the whole time.
And this term gets overused sometimes, but he really is an old school kind of fighter. Usyk is. I think he won all his cruiserweight belts in the hometown of all the champions that he fought. He went to the UK to beat AJ the first time around, and also just being a 15 round fighter. I mean, he's a 15 round fighter in these 12 round fights because the way he closes all these fights, the Joshua fights, the Breeders fight, and even this fight, if the fight had gone off for three more rounds, Usyk had the gas tank to go three more hard rounds at that pace too. For as tired as he looks when he takes some of those body shots and stuff like that, he's always able to recoup and still be at his strongest when it matters most of the end of the fight. And that's what the greats do at the end of the day.
So here's what we got where I see it, right? Let's say, Usyk and Fury meet again in October, right? Based on what you've seen out of that first fight, Jack, who would you put your money on? Who do you see, or how would you see the second fight going? You think it's more of the same? You think we get a whole different kind of game out of one guy or the other? What are your thoughts on that on the rematch if it does go down in, later this?
Now this is what's funny because I think I'd have to put my money on Usyk, but it does scare me a lot to count out a guy like Tyson Fury because it seems like every time we count out a guy like Tyson Fury, he always comes back and does what is unexpected of him. So I would have to lean Usyk just because I think, as I said, someone thinks he figured out late in the fight. I think he could kind of start the fight that way. But I wouldn't lie that it does scare the shit out of me. That's why, like in a hypothetical, if I had to bet, I would bet on Usyk. But I probably ain't gonna put any money on this fight. Just enjoy it like I did the first fight because I'd be tripping if I said I wasn't confident that Tyson Fury couldn't shock the world. Not even shock the world because the first fight was a close fight, but rally back and do the Tyson Fury thing and kind of surprise everybody. So I guess Usyk, but man, I cannot count on Tyson Fury. I've done it before, but I'm never doing it again. That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean Tyson Fury's made me look dumb every time I've counted him out, and even though he lost this fight, he didn't make me look stupid because you know what? I think he put on a hell of a show. He accounted for himself well. You know what I mean? He did end up losing the fight, but albeit a very close split decision. So it would be hard for me to count him out. I tell you what though, Usyk makes you think twice. You know what I mean? You can have a guy who's got all the intangibles on paper. You say Tyson Fury should beat him. And then what happens? He comes in there and he puts on a performance like he did last night. So be honest with you, I think that he'll be the betting favorite going into a rematch, but I'm still taking Tyson Fury, bro. And I think Tyson Fury might actually get a stoppage in the rematch, and then that builds up for an even bigger, trilogy fight. And I think the trilogy fight's going to be like on some Rocky shit. I think it's just going to be one of those knockdown, drag out fights. And I think that people don't take into consideration enough how where Usyk is from. Like Usyk's from a place where they're as tough as they come. You know what I mean? In Ukraine, bro. And I know they're going through what they're going through right now. And I know Tyson Fury said he got the benefit of the doubt because of that. I'm not a fan of that. I think that was just him in the moment, but I think that has nothing to do with it. But I do think that being from a place like Ukraine definitely makes you a lot tougher, bro. Like the shit these guys got to go through just to survive every day, let alone in a boxing ring, makes you a lot tougher. And I think that mentality, you know, has proven itself over and over again. We see these guys from the Middle East that are, going through these war torn countries, especially Ukraine though, and they usually attest for themselves really well. Usyk just so happens to be extremely fucking talented on top of that. So I know it might sound silly now to pick against him in a second fight, but I think, Fury wins the second fight. But I would not be surprised if or yeah, Fury wins the second fight, Usyk wins the third. I think we get a trilogy and Usyk goes up 2-1.
Trilogy would definitely dope. And I do see what you and Bean are saying is I could clearly see there is a clear path to victory for Fury, just like there was for both guys in the first fight. There's a path to victory for both guys in the second fight and the third fight too. So I'm sure it's not going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like Bean said, Ukraine was 2-0 last night. They're now 3-0 with three big wins in the past week too. So we're going to touch on that in a few seconds also. But before we go to that, just because as Pete said, we had a long ass undercard, so we're not going to get into every fight, but just a few notes that we did have on the undercard. We had a bunch of fights on there, but for the major fights and major name guys, I know Sergey Kovalev lost the unanimous decision. And as far as I'm concerned, good riddance to that dude. That dude's done a lot of bad shit in his life and his career, and everybody makes mistakes, but sometimes people are just bad people. So I'm not tripping about Sergey Kovalev. Hopefully that's his last fight. We can kind of great fighter in his day, but not the best guy out there. So I'm not mad at him losing and kind of going out the way he did, to say the least. But two fights I do want to touch on real quick. We had Jai Opetaia in the rematch against Maris Briedis. In this fight, I think Jai showed that he is the best cruiserweight in the world. I like kind of the rhythm I see from him. And for Briedis, man, he's older. He's kind of been inactive, but he showed what all these champions do late in these fights. He's past his best, but he rallied like these true champions and true vets do. Is even though it wasn't enough, he showed punch for punch. He wasn't able to match Jai, but he was able to kind of hurt him late in the fight and show that he still belongs in the mix. And outside of Jai Apataya, I still think that he could beat some of these other cruiserweight champions that we got out there. And then the other fight, this one really, really surprised me. Now, I've been high on Frank Sanchez. I know a lot of people don't like Frank Sanchez, but we've always kind of been fans of Frank Sanchez. But man, Agit Caballel just bullied Frank, to say the least. I didn't never thought I'd see Frank Sanchez bullied, but he was really kind of bullied in that fight. He looked good in the opening round with the jab and the movement, but Caballero just started working the body. Caballero, he's got to be the best heavyweight body puncher that we have. I've never seen anybody focus on the body at heavyweight like Caballero does. And Frank, just from in round 3 and 4, I started seeing him breathe out of his mouth, and that's a telltale sign that the guy's getting tired. And he was really getting tired. He had the knee brace on, so not that that's an excuse, but could that have been something going in? The bottom line is, as you had said in our chat too, knee brace, knee injury, beside the point, those body shots I think were going to get there regardless. The ring, he wasn't going to be able to move around the whole time, so he did spend too much time on the ropes, and Cabello made him pay for it. So I was really, really surprised by that. Props to Caballero because he showed that he now belongs, whether we see him in with the Joseph Parker or the winner of Hergovich Dubois, or we see him in with Anthony Joshua. I want to see Caballero fight again now. So, do you have any thoughts on the Opetaya Breedis rematch? Or I'm sure you're going to have thoughts on the Frank Sanchez and Caballero fights. What are your thoughts on just those two fights or anything else on the undercard?
So I want to touch on the Kovalev thing, man. I think he's washed, bro. I think, he's fighting a prospect. I think that guy was like 7 or 8 fights into his career before getting this fight with Kovalev. Hats off to the guy. I mean, he proved he wasn't just, some one hit wonder or, just some fly by night who's got a lot of pub behind him. Kovalev is probably a gatekeeper at this point if he stays in the sport, albeit a really high level gatekeeper. But against the elite guys, he's done, bro. He's washed. Um, he's lucky he didn't get knocked out. The time ran out on him, and he got saved there. Never really a huge fan, but he gave us some good fights. So right off into the sunset, bro. And I'll tell you, man, before the main event, the Jai and Breedis fight to me, that was the one. Like you mentioned it earlier. Breedis gave Usyk everything he could handle, in a title fight. I'm gonna tell you something. People got to start respecting these cruiserweights, bro. Breedis is he's everything you want in a guy, right? He's talented. He's got the heart and balls to fight. From round one all the way through 12. He's never gonna be. He's never gonna be one of these guys where you question his heart or did he give up or you might be able to go over his talent. Is he more talented than this person or not? But there's one thing you can never count out is his heart, right? And his willingness to get in there and mix it up. And the fact that he was going in against the guy at cruiserweight, right? Let's say Jai is the man, and in both fights, he's giving this dude all the business he can handle, right? And if it wasn't for just Jai just being far superior athletically, I think he beats him. Like you know what I mean? It's when you look at the way he's fought, he fought brilliantly. Hats off to him and Jai for putting on a great fight. Hats off to Jai for being, the cruiserweight champ. I think, to be honest with you, if Jai wants to in the next couple of years, he can move up to heavyweight and pull a Usyk. You know what I mean? Guys like Jared Anderson better hope he stays at cruiserweight, bro, because if he comes up to heavyweight, he's going to be a problem for a lot of people. Um, because he's not only got power, but he's got the boxing skills to go with it. Frank Sanchez, though, good lord. I'll say this, bro, and I'm really disappointed in his loss. Not just because I'm a fan of his, I really am, but it. And I've said this, in the lead up. He looked defeated before he even started fighting. Like he just seemed off. I don't, we always say that sometimes you see these guys and something looked off, and it didn't look off because of his opponent. He looked off before that bell ever rung. So, and I said it, watching it, I'm sitting there, something looks off, with Frank. It doesn't look like he's really 100% into this. So I don't know if I'm not making excuses for the guy. His opponent. Let me tell you something. This is I think my third time seeing this dude. I've been overly impressed. I'm with it. You know what I mean? I'm on the train. You know what I mean? Sign me up for the next time that guy fights. Frank Sanchez, I think he needs to go back. This is a huge, huge step back for him. You know what I mean? Because he was on that trajectory, right? Like, win this, you can get a title fight next, kind of shit. So I think Frank needs to go back to the drawing board. I will say this though. I think because of how easily he was dismantled in this fight, people are going to want to fight him now. People were ducking him. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll probably get a fight or two that wasn't an option before because people were like, oh, he's washed. I can get him and get a good name on my resume. He's still a guy you got to watch out for. I think if if he resolves whatever it was that was going wrong last night, I think he'll be back in there. But yeah, the fight of the night that what other than the title fight for me was Breedis and Jai.
Sure, we got Jesus in here saying Jai versus Billum Smith makes sense. I like that. I know. I think it's Chris Billum because I think he's doing a rematch against Richard Riakporhe, but either one of those guys, I'd be cool with. I know Badu Jack called out Jai Opataya. I've always liked Badu Jack. I think you want to be careful. I don't know if he wants to mess around with a guy like Jai Opataya at this point, being a guy who's moved up from 68 to 75. But if the Saudis want to make that fight, I wouldn't be mad at it maybe, but I'd rather see Jai unify against the winner, Billum Smith and Riakporhe. But I see, let's see what Jesus got here. So yeah, so he said, who do I match Caballel with next? So what I would actually do is if I was Turkey Al I would do the Hergovich and Dubois winner against AJ, and I would do Joseph Parker against Caballel, and then maybe the winners of those two guys against each other to be the first mandatory for Fury and Usyk if they wrap up their 2 or 3 fights. So, I mean, if you want to put those 4 guys in any kind of order you want, you could do. But I've already seen Joshua fight Parker, so maybe do Parker and Caballel, and then you do the winner of Hergovich and Dubois against Joshua for the IBF title would probably make the most sense. So, are any of those fights jump out to you that you would want to see, wouldn't want to see, or any other ideas you got for what's next for any of these guys?
I would love to see Joseph Parker in against Caballero. You know what I mean? To me, especially what we've seen from Joseph the last couple of fights. You know what I mean? I think he's earned, a decent payday, but I would be intrigued to watch him and Caballero fight, just so based off of what I've seen on the last couple of fights with the two of them. And I think you're right. I think that the winner of that, and then once you get and I think once you get AJ an opponent, it doesn't to me it really doesn't matter. I think he'll beat whoever he faces next. I think he's he's in a groove, bro. I think he's actually more in his peak now than he was when he won all the belts back then. I think he's where you want to be as a boxer right now. And I think he's learned a valuable lesson. He learned how to react from those losses, right? Like a lot of people they catch those L's and they start doing this. He's actually ascending. So I like what I'm seeing from him. But yeah, I don't need to see him and Parker again. You know what I mean? So I take that Parker Caballero fight, and then get the winner of that. Against you know him down the line because again let's be clear, Fury and Usyk are going to be tied up for a while. So that's going to make those belts unavailable.
For sure, we got Jesus saying Caballel versus Parker winner to fight the Zhang Wilder winner. Hey, I'm mad at that either. I was just gonna mention how we got Wilder and Zhang still in the mix with the winner of that fight is in the mix with any of these guys. And I know Turkey Al had said before that if Wilder beats Zhang, he'd want to make Wilder and Jared Anderson. So we got about 8 different dudes in the mix there. So the bottom line is like I think the fights that we said would be the good ones in that too. Another 2 guys is Andy Ruiz and Big Baby Miller. Now I'd assume that Andy Ruiz wins that fight. I want to see how Andy looks in that fight first to see him going in because Caballero with those body shots, I think he could put some real work in against Andy Ruiz or Big Baby Miller, whoever wins that fight. So Andy's got the talent to be in the mix with those dudes, but I personally would have to see how Andy looks in this fight back first before I'd say that he's in the mix with the rest of those guys. But besides that, like I said, any of those guys we mentioned, Wilder and Zhang, throw Jared Anderson in the mix too. Mix and match those guys whoever you want to, and I'm cool with that at the end of the day.
Be honest with you, I'm not interested in Andy or Big Baby Miller at this point, and for different reasons. I think Big Baby Miller. You know my opinion of Big Baby Miller. We've had this discussion. I'm not going to give that dude more airtime than he needs to, other than to mention he's fighting Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz, for me, I think he fumbled the church's money. He had every opportunity to roll that championship win against Anthony Joshua into a lot more money and bigger fights, and he blew it. He blew it, being mad overweight for their rematch. He's not capitalized on his wins since. I don't know what he's been doing the last 2 years, other than posing for Instagram pictures, with his fat abs. It's crazy. He's fat and still has abs. I don't know what's going on, but I think it's one of those things where, all right, you've kind of been fucking off. So, and I don't regard the person you're getting ready to fight in any way. So even if he washes Miller or knocks him out, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Because of who you're fighting. He's not really a threat to me, to anybody at the top 20 of the heavyweight division. So, if you beat him, to me, it'd be like beating a taxi cab driver, or Curtis Harper at this point. You might get more of a fight out of him. So please don't fight him. Please don't. I just don't do that. But the thing is, you know, I would need to see what Andy Ruiz has against Miller, but I want to see him fight somebody else before I throw him in any picture. That's just me.
Yeah, that's what it is for me. It's less how he does against. It's less about if he wins, because we'd assume to be in the picture, you got to beat a guy like Big Baby Miller. We said it's less about the result and more about how he looks in the result. Does he look in shape? Or his hands still fast? Is his punch resistance still there? It's more of those intangibles I think that we'd want to see out of Andy. And as you're saying here, Martin Bacoli against Caballero. So I think Martin Bacoli and Michael Hunter are two other guys, and we could keep throwing on heavyweight names, but those are two other guys, Bacoli and Michael Hunter, that I'd like to see get in the mix with these Saudi guys too, without a doubt. Bottom line is the heavyweight division is back. People say that boxing only goes as far as the heavyweight division, which we know it's not the case. We've seen a lot of great undisputed unification fights, title fights and stuff in the other divisions, but for the casual fans, boxing does go as far as the heavyweight division. I think that you've even seen MMA fans and stuff say that as great as MMA is, or as great as the NBA, the NFL, any of these sports are, as fans of those sports more than boxing will say, okay, when boxing's got its shit together, when boxing's at the highest level, there's really nothing like it. I think we saw a prime example of that just last night.
Well, think about it. Madison Square Garden gets sold out more during boxing events than any other event, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like you have to bring somebody like Beyonce, Jay Z. You have to bring some superstar that is not in the sport, not in a sport, to pack out these arenas. And boxing does it. Football doesn't. Basketball doesn't. I've seen some of these basketball games. Arenas be half empty. You know what I'm saying? Football stadiums be a little light. Why? Because those tickets are ridiculously expensive. You know what I'm saying? But people still love the sport of boxing, bro, and it doesn't come around as often. It's not, you get these big names. I mean, people forget Tank got Madonna to come to his fight, and she don't come out at all. So to say that boxing is dead to me is just the funniest shit I've ever heard. People been saying it for 30 years. It's not going anywhere. It's never going to go anywhere. It's the last gladiator sport we have. And as soft as the NFL and NBA and the other sports have gotten with the rules, rightfully so. We don't want anybody getting killed to play football or anything like that. But boxing and MMA are the last of the Mohicans, right? As far as gladiator sports. So they're not going anywhere because people love to see, grown ass men and women beat the shit out of each other. It is what it is. um, and then, two, my brother was just mentioning this to me in a text. He said, "Hey, are you going to mention the inhaler?" I wasn't going to talk about it, but Jack, I kind of want to get your. I didn't really. I didn't watch the. I guess there's a video out there that shows Usyk getting an inhaler. I didn't see it in the live on the fight. So can you speak to more to that? Maybe you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, so I'm always down for a good little conspiracy theory, but the problem is I think I can put an end to the conspiracy just from other things I've seen and stuff like that. So if anyone hasn't seen, there's a video going around on Twitter where they got the towel, they're just Usyk in between corners, and he kind of bends down, and it looks like they're kind of handing him something. So is it an inhaler, like you said, or something like that? But from what I've seen and from other pictures, you're never going to be able to see exactly what it is. But it more actually looks like Usyk always carries, religious guy carries a cross with him. So it actually looks like they were giving him a cross, and he was kissing the cross sometimes in between rounds, which would also make sense. So trust me, I'm always down for a cool little conspiracy theory. But as Bean says right there, it was his cross. So it's also a good thing for boxing too, because as great as all these fights have been, we've never had a fight without even just a little bit of controversy too. So I'm happy we can kind of, as much as I love the conspiracy things, I'm happy to kind of put that one to bed and say that, as being said, he was just kind of kissing his cross in between rounds. So That's all I got for that one. As suspicious as it looked at first, at the end of the day, it seems like it's just all whole lot of nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it, so I wasn't even gonna speak on it because I can't speak on what I didn't see. I didn't watch it or wasn't looking for it during the fight either. But somebody mentioned it to me after I had watched it, and I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if especially if it's something he does on a regular basis, and I'm pretty sure if he were using an inhaler in between rounds, somebody would have caught it. I mean, those commission guys are right there, so they he would have caught some hell after the fight, if not during. So I'm pretty sure you're right. It's probably just the cross, and people are just looking for a reason, to add controversy, to an already controversial decision for most people. So yeah, it's silly. Thanks to Beans for clearing that up too. We appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, it had almost shades of when Greg Hardy was in the UFC when he actually used an inhaler in between rounds and he wasn't supposed to. So kind of a little bit of shades of that, but at the end of the day, like we said, and it's good that there's no kind of other controversy because we said even boxing, even as awesome as Terrence Crawford was against Errol Spence, you now see people saying, "Oh, was Spence drugged?" or this and that. Spence didn't look the same. So no matter what, there's always kind of something people can grasp on. So luckily for Usyk and any of his supporters, that's not something that has any legs to stand on. But we know in boxing, people are going to try to always find something. But real quick before we get on out of here, I don't know if you happen to see the top ranked card that they had last night with Navarrete, Berinchyk, and some of those other fights, or
I didn't even know the top rank
okay.
was on, bro.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was on until it was too late
Hmm.
for me to watch the fights. When I finally realized that the top rank card was popping off, they were doing the interviews. So
Hmm.
for the title fight. So I didn't actually, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch that. I'll probably, watch the replay at some point and give my opinion then. But I understand Navarrete lost, which is gonna, fuck up a gravy train for a lot of people right now because there were talks of him and Tank fighting, or him and Shakur fighting, or him, maybe even moving up again. From what I've heard, though, sounds like he didn't really carry his power up to 135 with him. So again, I'll have to see from my, and draw my own conclusions from there. But if that's true, he might want to stay, wa- might want to stay in his weight class and just kind of clean things up.
Yeah, I'll give you all just a little quick rundown on that one before we get out here. But Denis Berinchyk and Emmanuel Navarrete fought for the vacant WBO 135-pound title, and it was, as Bean already said, 2-0 night for Ukraine. It was a pretty cool night. Berinchyk, for me, it seemed like this is where weight classes, you always say too, and everyone says, we got weight classes for a reason in the sport, and it finally seemed like Navarrete's jumping up in weight finally caught up to him. Now we've seen he's never really looked ripped. He's never been a guy that's had a six pack, but he had his body looked a little extra soft in this fight. The guy who started at 22 to 26, okay, cool. 26 to 30, okay, you're starting to see a little more flab at 30, but at 35, I think you saw that just there was a little too much on his body. And he's still a tall and long guy, but there was definitely the waistband didn't look the same way it used to at 22 and 26, but Berinchyk, he's just a crafty dude. He comes from the same school of Ukrainian boxing that Usyk, Lomachenko, Oleksandr Vosdik, Sergey Derevyanchenko, that all these guys come from, and they're all crafty and they know how to use their skills and also the power of Navarrete. Berinchyk was able to withstand, and Navarrete wasn't as effective. It's not like he landed a ton of shots in there, but even when he did land at 35 against a big, strong lightweight who was an Olympic medalist, I believe, who's been in the game a long time, he was able to withstand those shots and always have an answer when it seemed like Navarrete started getting something going, especially late. But I'm happy the judges got it right too, because I thought they were about to rip off Berinchyk too. I had it, I think, 8-4. Berinchyk, one of the cards was 8-4 for Navarrete, which I can't really see that. If you want to say a draw, I'm cool with that. Maybe even Navarrete edging it, I guess maybe. But I thought Berinchyk won clearly, so I think that was. I was happy to see the judges got it right. But commentating crew kind of aggravated me a little bit too, just because I think they were too focused on Navarrete during the fight. Even we're in like rounds 5 or 6, and they're still talking about what Navarrete could be doing next. And I'm like, hold on a second now. He's losing in this fight. Like, let's hold on a second. And they do what aggravates me, which I know we've talked about before. Is instead of giving Berinchyk credit for what he was doing, they're saying, oh, Navarrete is not doing this. He's not doing that. The power is not doing this and that. I'm like, Well, maybe that's because he's against a bad mofo in there in Berinchyk, who's got the skills to offset those kind of things. So I hate when it gets too slanted one way, the broadcast, when instead of giving the other guy credit, they said, oh, this guy, he should be doing this, this, and that, and forgetting that, well, maybe, I know it's a surprise, maybe the other dude's just not letting him do that. So that kind of aggravates me sometimes. Props to Berinchyk. He won the fight fair and square, and I was happy to see him get the split decision victory. But the one shocker, and I see Adam Hurley also saying that he sees Caballo fight Jared Anderson, and bro, I'm down for that fight. I know you'd be down for that fight too. So that's a great fight. 100% would be down for that. But to touch on the co-main real quick, as Jesus was asking me some questions about that, but Brian Norman, as we get comment here, my pop's saying too. Brian Norman looked amazing in this fight. Brian Norman he got some traction on his name a few years ago. He had the sparring session with Terrence Crawford where people claimed he had hurt him, but signed with Top Rank. But he kind of always looked flat on Top Rank. He seemed like he's a big, strong welterweight. You see, he's got speed and power, but he kind of never put it all together. But man, he finally put it all together, and I can see where those sparring stories are coming from. And yeah, it's just sparring at the end of the day, but you can see this guy's a legit contender at welterweight now. What he did a lot of, as Jesus is saying, that with Gio's playing wrong with no adjustments. I think he was just in there with the guy who, like you said, just used his aggressiveness against him. And I think for Santillan, it's a lot harder for him to adjust when you come out aggressive like that. It's a lot harder to kind of peel back once you start going like that. It's a lot easier to kind of start slow and then pump it up. But once you start going like that, it's a lot harder to adjust. But one thing Brian Norman did, which Nibs, I want you to pay attention to this when you watch it back, but he did a great job of what they call framing too. So if he's in, it's going to look reverse on the camera, but he's in a right-handed stance. So he was doing a lot of when Santillan's coming at him. He was using the jab, and he was also framing like Shakur does. So he'd frame the jab, leave the hand there, and then shoot the right hand or shoot the left hook. So he did a lot of framing to keep Santillan at bay too. So Jesus, maybe there's an adjustment that they could have made there, but I just think that Brian Norman just came to fight, as Adam Hurley saying he's probably a top five welterweight right now. I think that's a fair thing to say, and he's going to be a world champion at some point. So, does that surprise you at all that Brian Norman? I don't know if how much you've seen him before, but he came in as a big underdog in this fight. But man, he just Santillan had his moments, and he showed. I mean, dog too. I thought the fight probably should have been stopped in the ninth round. Norman landed an uppercut that his nose was busted. It was definitely broken, but and then he ended up getting knocked down two more times after that. But I want to give Santillan all the credit in the world. But are you surprised to hear that Brian Norman kind of out of nowhere has asserted himself as a soon-to-be champion and now a legit top five guy at welterweight?
Yes and no. So, and the reason I say yes is because I've seen him fight one other time, and I wasn't overly impressed. Right? I thought he was okay. He's a decent, fighter. Um, but I say no because right now the welterweight division is wide open, bro. It's there for the taking. Like the biggest stars and the biggest threats, right, in the division have moved on. And even the champions that are left, no one's saying, "Oh, I don't want to fight that guy," right? Like, let's be real clear. You look at the guys who have belts right now. Everybody who's in the welterweight division is salivating over wanting to get in the ring with these dudes. Whereas you might have had a little pause trying to get in there against. You might say you want to fight Errol Spence, but you didn't really mean it. You know what I'm saying? You might say you want to get in there against Terrence Crawford. You really didn't want that smoke. You know what I'm saying? Um, and even for the guys that did, hey, let's face it, you're not fucking with them. You're not on their level. Now you look at it, the welterweight division is open for a guy like Brian Norman to come in there and get these belts. He gets I think it's the interim belt, right? He is what he has now. So it's wide open for these guys. We were just talking about it, you know, before his positive test came back. Ryan Garcia can move up to 147 right now and potentially be a world champion in a couple of fights, if not his next one. So it's that wide open for a guy like that who might not have blown us out of the water with his talent or been on anybody's radar, but now he's in the conversation. Now you've got to have a serious conversation about Brian Norman Jr. And hats off to him for taking advantage of the opportunity. That's what this sport is about, right? You get that opportunity no matter how you get it. You got to take advantage because you never know when you can get another one.
100%. We got Jesus asking if framing's illegal. Now, technically, you're not supposed to do it, but I always say anything the ref's letting you do, If he ain't gonna stop you, buddy, you might as well keep doing it. But I think he also did a good job of he would frame it, then he'd also pump that jab out at times too. So he wasn't just framing where he was still pumping the jab out enough. One thing I always say is, hey, if the referee's not gonna stop you from doing it, you might as well keep doing it until he says something about it. So,
Hey,
by
the
the book,
definition of
is it?
cheating is getting caught.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. But either way, legal or illegal, I think there was a great tactic that he used to kind of slow down Santillan. When you got a guy coming at you, you kind of just stick that out there. It allows you to kind of keep your range and allowed him to really keep going with the counter punch and all those kind of things. But two other notes on this undercard, real quick. We saw Emiliano Vargas pick up a big win and against a tough guy. I think he was supposed to go rounds. He went rounds, got a TKO in the sixth round. I just love how he's able to cut the ring off. He's able to switch stances. Okay, he's in a right-handed stance. So the guy moves laterally the other way. Oh, he just switches to the southpaw stance and then cuts him off. Just when you're able to switch stances like that, it allows you to cut off the ring so effective. And he's got the goods. I mean, he's got the speed, the power. He's starting to put the defense all together too. Still, young, so I think 19 or 20 years old, but just like Abdullah Mason, those two dudes are on a rocket ship to superstardom. I think and the last dude I want to give credit to is Richard Torres. We've seen him in with an undefeated guy, Brandon Moore. So that's the one thing we've been asking for him to step up in competition. Still a favorite in this fight, don't get me wrong, but man, Torres looked sharp in this fight. Though he was using his angles, he was being explosive, and he got a stoppage victory over an undefeated guy in Brandon Moore. So I think that it answered some of the questions people had about, okay, can he do it against the guy who's coming to win? So Brandon Moore came to win. It ended up not being enough. So I would now like to see Richard Torres in the mix with like an FA at Jogba or a Guido Vianello. I think that he can start to take that next step now too because as you've always said, the dude was a silver medalist in the Olympics. He does have all the skills you need. So I just want to see him against a guy like Guido or FA, guys who are a little bit taller about that also. And then hold on a second, women's boxing channel. I was about to get to it. I just wanted to finish my thoughts on the undercard, but time out a whole second because we respect everybody in the chat. So we talk about women's boxing all the time. So I don't know if that's directed. I guess it's directed towards me, but I wanted to just finish touching on the undercard. I'm gonna get to your question right now. So just hold on. Bear with us, but we love women's boxing. If you watch our channel often, you know that we put more respect on women's boxing than a lot of these other cats out here. So I think maybe settle down a little bit. I'll get to your comment right here. Like I said, I just didn't want to go to that and then go back to the end of the card. So time out a second. I'm gonna answer your question. All right. You said, what do you think about Sandy Ryan? I don't think she's the best fighter on the planet, but I'm a big fan of Sandy Ryan. So I think that I can show some of my women's boxing knowledge here. Is that I thought she beat Jessica McCaskill. I thought that was kind of a crazy decision. She went in there against Terry Harper. She wore down Terry Harper. So man, that was a great performance. I think that her and Lauren Price is a great fight. I'd have to favor Lauren Price in that fight because I think the world of Lauren Price also. But I think they're both pound for pound level talents, and I'd love to see those two either fight each other now or maybe get another fight or two and then build to a fight like that. But I'm a big fan of Sandy Ryan, probably even a bigger fan of Lauren Price also. So Women's Boxing Channel, shout out to you though. You're saying fair enough, but I do want to say that just we do support a lot of women's boxing on here. So like I said, I wanted to just keep it in order, but don't worry, I was gonna get to your question. So if you're subscribed to us, we appreciate it. And any big women's boxing fights that we do have coming up, I guarantee we'll cover it. So stay tuned for all of those. And we got Felix saying, don't worry, they support women's boxing more than Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And hey, that's one thing. So, Women's Boxing Channel, you'll appreciate this one. I know you were just coming at me a little bit, but you'll appreciate this. Nibs has been saying it, I've been saying it, that the real main event we think is Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano and not Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. Now, am I interested to see Mike Tyson and Jake Paul? I'm interested to see how it plays out. But let's be real, there's only one world title fight on that card, and it's Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, the motherfucking rematch.
Look, man. I'm gonna say this to answer her question directly. Um, I agree with you. I don't think Sandy Ryan's the best fighter on the planet, but I actually am gonna go the other way. I fuck with Sandy Ryan, and I think I would take at right now today if you're asking me to put money on it, I'd take her over Lauren Price. But I want to. I kind of do. I'm with you. I want to see them both have another fight before they fight each other. But right now, if you're asking me, I'd take Sandy Ryan over Lauren Price for a number of reasons. But I'm going to hold off saying what that is until I see them both have another fight, and I think they will before they ever, get in the ring with each other. And to our biggest hater, supporter, lover. fanboy, Felix. You know, I just want to point out that there is no reason, and I've said this before, and I'm not even saying this to defend myself because I don't think I have to. There's no reason to watch Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, other than the fact that you're watching it purely for entertainment value, right? To me, this is less interesting than Jake Paul fighting Nate Robinson. You know what I mean? Because that was an unknown. Look, Mike Tyson is damn near 60 fucking years old, bro. 60 years old. Him fighting anybody at this point, I'm not interested in. Look, Mike, I love you. Go sit down someplace. Keep smoking your weed. Keep taking your mushrooms. Just keep doing the YouTube stuff. We love you. You have nothing to prove. Jake Paul, I was fucking with you for a little bit because I felt like, as far as your boxing career is concerned, because I was like, okay, maybe he's starting to take this serious. He's actually fighting some real, actual boxers, right? On that level. But let's be real clear. What do you get? Okay, if you're Jake Paul, other than being able to say I beat Mike Tyson, right? Albeit at 60 years old, what do you get out of fighting Mike Tyson? Nothing. Nothing. It's a lose lose for you on just on the boxing level. Yes, people are going to pay for it, right? But as far as Mike Tyson is concerned, again, what does this do for your boxing career? Nothing. Because if you beat Jake Paul, nobody was going to want to see you fight anybody else. You know what I'm saying? And if you beat Jake Paul, people are going to say, well, you should. He's he's a novice in the sport, right? And you're the much more seasoned boxer. You should beat him. Jake Paul, if you beat Mike Tyson, okay, you beat a 60-year-old man. You know what I mean? That I don't need to see either one of them, and it does nothing for me. It does absolutely nothing for me. Mike Tyson is one of my heroes. I don't need to see him fighting at 60 years old, bro. And that's about all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back and piggyback off what you said. Do I need to see it? No. Will I sit down and watch it? Hell yeah, I will. Now maybe that's the wrong thing to do because I'm watching it for all the wrong reasons, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. They've been talking a little bit of shit back and forth now, so we're kind of getting, as Felix posted on his IG, we're starting to see a little bit of the old Mike Tyson coming back. He's starting to get a little irritated and stuff, and Jake's playing along now too, but I think it is kind of a lose-lose. If Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson, he knocks out Mike Tyson, the dude's 60 years old. And if he tastes that, I think if he tastes that power early, and all of a sudden you change the course of fight and it doesn't go his way, then you lost to a guy who's 60 years old and who hasn't been fighting active basically since I was in diapers. So I think the bottom line is it's kind of a lose-lose for Jake Paul, but I'm interested to see how it plays out. I'm not going to give a full breakdown of the fight or anything like that right now, but I am definitely interested to see how it plays out. Maybe not for the right reasons per se, but I'm gonna have to sit down and watch it
Bro,
for sure, though.
think of it like this, right? What was it James Tony and was it Razor Ruddock recently fought? Right, both of those dudes is damn near in their 60s. It, no, it didn't nothing. I don't need to watch that, right? And I know people did because it was entertaining. I don't want to watch that shit. Another thing too, right? Uh, you look at I forget who the guy's name was, but he knocked out Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield is got
Vitor
one.
Belfort, yeah,
Yeah,
Vitor Belfort from UFC.
Evander Holyfield got 1 foot in the grave, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah. And did that advance Vitor Belfort's fucking boxing career? No. Why? Because you beat a dude who's half dead anyway. Cut that shit out, bro. Cut it out. I'm sorry. And the fact that Texas actually sanctioned this fight, Jesus.
Nah, facts. But I'll ask you this kind of too, because look off of what Women's Boxing Channel just said. She said, so if Mike wins and destroys Jake, are you gonna go refrain from going ballistic? One thing I will say is that it might be a lose-lose, but I'd be happy as hell to see Mike Tyson give Jake Paul a taste of that power and see how it reacts, and especially if Mike ends up being too much for him. So yeah, I know you say you're not a huge fan of this fight, but would you at least take a little victory lap if Mike Tyson were to be able to beat a guy in Jake Paul?
No, and I'm not gonna watch it. I'm when I say I'm not gonna watch this, I'm being dead serious. I'm not gonna watch it, I'm not saying this for entertainment value. I'm not saying it because we're on here and we're going back and forth with Felix. Personally, just personally, and I get why people are watching this. look, I'm not an idiot, right? I'm not a dumbass. I completely understand why people are going to watch Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I am not. Period. And again, Mike Tyson could be fighting another, like, I barely watched him and Roy Jones fight, and I thought that shit was sad. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I watched that for just to see, because it was more of an exhibition. I was like, okay, this is fun. This is a real fight. Like, this is gonna go on Mike Tyson's record. I don't want to watch it. I don't need to see this. I don't need to see Mike Tyson fight anymore. Period. Like, it was painful to watch his last couple of real pro fights. I don't need to see this shit. And if he does knock him out, okay, great. If he doesn't, okay, great. Like, no matter what happens in this fight, it's not gonna really affect me or my opinion of either guy going forward. So I really am not gonna watch this shit, and I don't care what people think.
Yeah, everyone in the chat too. You already got your phones out, laptops out. Screenshot this shit right here too, because Felix is on record saying if Mike Tyson wins by KO, he's gonna get a Mike Tyson quote tattooed on him. So we should see if he holds up his end to the bargain on that one, as Bean says too. I think the 2 minute rounds do kind of help Mike a bit. It's a little less time in there. If he gets him into the corner and lands on something, we shall see. And I guess it is kind of for Nibs. It is kind of a protest non-watch for that one. So I guess he's kind of out on it. But I know at the end of the day, he is going to be rooting for Mike to pull it off, especially to see if Felix gets the tattoo. We shall see how that one goes.
Now, for that reason alone, I'm not gonna
You
watch
might
it.
watch.
But for that reason alone, I do want Mike to win, just
Mhm.
because didn't have to mark himself up. But we know how long it takes Felix to actually do stuff he says he's gonna do. So I'm still waiting on my catch and counter T-shirt, by the way. And you can thank your Monday night co-host for taking your shots for you. But we just
I
I'm done.
guess the question is, do we get to choose the quote too? Like which Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson's got some good sound bites and some not so good sound bites too. So I'll be interested to see what kind of quote that we get from Felix to put on there too. He said he'll pick three quotes and let the ITR fans vote on which one it'll be. So y'all heard it here first, or I guess we're all rooting for Mike Tyson to win by knockout now too to call Felix's bluff on that one. We shall see on that one. But we've been going on for
Do we get to
uh,
pick where the tattoo gets put to? Like, I mean,
that's a good question. We'll see if King Felix G will answer us for that one in the chat right now. But we're going on for about 80 minutes, mixing in some fights that we just had and kind of going into some future things too. A look to the future. Bean said he wants to pick on the pick out the three quotes, so we'll see if Felix they'll figure that out right there. But my dad said don't forget about the big fight next Saturday, my fight. So yes, I am going to be in the ring next Saturday. We got a few other fights. Christian and Billy is going to be fighting. I don't know. I forget the name of his opponent, Mark Heffron, maybe. And then we got the rematch between Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall also. So just due to my fight, we will not be on this Friday. So maybe you see Nibs on Monday. Maybe you see him. He's got the right to if he wants to get a guest on Friday and do his thing on Friday too. He can do that. But I will be preparing for my fight then. So but that is it. And then I'm just basically I'm in shape now and I'm getting ready for my fight. As I mentioned too, I don't do a lot of talking about it, but I am excited about it, and I will keep you guys posted on how that goes also.
sh- shout out to Pops Kelly in the chat, man. I missed that guy. I didn't see him earlier in there. My fault, Pops. That's my fault. But I appreciate you, and again appreciate you for letting everybody know the champ is really here. You know what I'm saying? The boy is gonna be doing some things on Saturday.
No, it's a fact. So, like we said, next week I'll let you guys know how it goes. We'll basically be recapping my W. So I'm very humble, but I'm confident in my abilities at the end of the day. So I'm excited to be able to showcase my skills. We've been able to spar at other places and stuff like that. But being a late starter, being someone in their 20s, I'm excited to finally be able to put my skills to the test. So Felix saying we can't pick the location. We'll see. We'll see about that. So he might slide his way out of this. And I have a feeling Felix is going to underwhelm in his choice of the tattoo, those kind of things. Does he get a little minuscule quote and like 2 point font that we can't see anywhere? To be determined
Uh,
on that one.
he,
So
he
I
needs to
pre.
he needs to get the face
Mhm.
tattoo. That's what he needs.
There we go. So Bean saying good luck. I appreciate it. Women's Boxing Channel said she takes it back. You guys are cool. I appreciate it. And I was more kind of joking with you too. And honestly, you're kind of new here, but we do always respect women's boxing too. So as I said, whenever we got something, I just want to kind of get through what I got to get through just to keep the points I had going. But I always appreciate any back and forth. And anytime any of y'all got questions on topic or off topic, shoot them in the chat, and we got no problem covering up for sure. But Bean saying Jack Frost for the win. Yes, sir. That's the goal. So that's what we're gonna get going Saturday night. But before we wrap up these shows with Mims Boxing Channel, you're new to this, so you'll see this here. But we always we like to support the local boxing. Also, I've been to a lot of shows. I'm in the New England area. I know Nibs is on the West Coast. He's seeing a lot of local shows out there too. So I kind of let Nibs do his thing. One thing I say is I couldn't say it any better than he does it. So that's why I leave it to him. But give his little spiel on why you should support local boxing and kind of how really the foundation of boxing as a whole. Like, yeah, we see Usyk and Fury, we see Spencer Crawford, we see Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, all these big fights, but they all kind of start somewhere, and just the ecosystem of boxing is really kind of built up by these local shows, and Nibs will kind of let us know why it's so important to support them, and because you get some great nights when you go to those shows also.
I mean, he said he couldn't do it better than me, but he was pulling it off. You see what he did? You see what he did there? I'm not that good at it, and then he shows out. I see what you did, Jack. I've been watching your ass. But like my man said, we support local boxing, and there's for many reasons. If you've been a fan of the show, you've heard me say it a million times, a million different ways. But I want to lead off. Speaking of quotes, I want to lead off with another quote from one of the greatest of all time. When you reach the top, you should remember to send the elevator back down for the others. You know who that came from? Mr. Sugar Ray Leonard himself. You know where Sugar Ray Leonard is from? Wilmington, North Carolina. How many of you think boxing when you hear the city, Wilmington, North Carolina? You don't, right? He's a local guy. I guarantee there was a whole bunch of people who had to be there to support him, right? For him to get to the level he is. Sugar Ray Leonard is going to go down as one of, if not the best in his division. He's going to go down as, it's not arguable. He's going to go down as one of the best of all time. He's got his jacket. He's got his bust. Hall of Fame. It's a wrap. It's a lock. Put some respect on his name, right? But again, he doesn't get there if Wilmington, North Carolina doesn't stand up. If people don't go to those local shows, if he doesn't get support from his local gym, no matter what name he built on himself at a later time, and gets the pub later on, he had to start someplace. And again, out there in Wilmington, out here in Tucson, out there where Jack is at, out there where Dakota and everybody else is, there's a guy right now that's the next Sugar Ray, and we haven't even heard of him yet. Why? Because maybe he's not getting the support he needs. Maybe he's not getting the direction that he needs. And support can be anything. It could be a friend saying, "Hey, dude, I think you should be a boxer," or "Hey, keep up with that." Right? Just a word of encouragement. Get them. It doesn't always have to be financial. You get these guys into the ring. You support the local events. Like Jack has said, go out to your local events, no matter where they're located, no matter what gyms they're located in, no matter what football, baseball fields these fights might be held at, whether they're in the back somebody's backyard or in the back of somebody's business. Support these local events because they also support your local economy. And again, they are you. So if you can't support yourself, then what are you doing here? So get in there, support these local boxing. Speaking of, go out. And, if you're in the area, go ahead out there and support Mr. Jack Kelly when he goes out there and puts the ones and twos on, somebody this Saturday. We appreciate you and everything you do, brother. And, Jack for the dub.
Sir, I appreciate you as always, Nibs. We started this road a couple of years ago. Started with the Tony interview, so we started off pretty hard, and we've been keeping the momentum going. So I appreciate everybody at RTR. I appreciate all y'all in the chat as always too. And I gave kind of just a little intro to Nibs, but all I did was give the little cliff notes. He gave you the whole damn story, the whole damn book on it. So that's why I kind of leave it to him. Do it as eloquently as he just did it, but that is it for episode 28 of Catch and Counter. As always, we appreciate all y'all in the chat. So, to be determined when our next show is. I know the box. There we go. Support the local boxing. The boxing shop will be on tomorrow. Maybe you see Nibs in a guest appearance on there for the shop. It might be a good idea to try to recruit someone like Nibs on there. Would it be the worst thing in the world? Maybe he comes on Friday, does something. Maybe we do something on Sunday. So we shall see about that. And Felix saying, see, plug your show so people know where to watch you. So my fight, unfortunately, it is not on television. I am not at that level yet, as being said. I will most likely have a video after the fact that I could share out and post certain things, but it is not on any platforms at all. Nolan Brothers Boxing, I want to give a shout out to them because they are promoting this event. I've gone to spar at their gym before, so they offered me a spot on this card. So I want to shout out to them. Shout out to my trainers, Josh and Cliff Fippen. Shout out to Billy Sproles, Mark DeLuca, all these guys who have helped me in camp, all my sparring partners, all the guys who I train with and everything. So they've helped me become the man that I am right now, and we're kind of just getting started on this journey. So I'm excited to see where it takes me. But as I said, so it's Waltham High School on this Saturday, Nolan Brothers Boxing. So I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to showcase my skills. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'll give you guys an update on that once we have our next show. But that's it for episode 28. As always, appreciate all y'all for real. The support goes a long way. Everyone who's hit the like button, everybody who comments, it means the world to us. We really, really do appreciate it. So we'll catch y'all next week. Maybe we see Nibs at some point. Look out to our ITR Boxing Instagram and Facebook pages. We'll have updates and all that stuff for y'all. But for now, that is it. So have a great night, everybody. We'll catch y'all at some point soon.